All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, well, that doesn't sound very good. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, I'm Judge Stephanie Boyd here in the 187th District Court. It is on the fourth floor. So, what courtroom are you in? What floor? And who's the judge? All right, you guys are good, because usually people trail off at that last part. But the reason why I have y'all repeat that is because when we're doing jury selection, in order for us to start, everyone needs to be present. And when we take breaks as needed, if everybody doesn't come back, we have to wait for people to come back. One time we were doing jury selection, what ended up happening is we were missing a juror, we were searching for that juror, and they were down the hallway about to be selected for another jury panel. And then one person came back very late. They said, I looked up and everybody was gone. So if ever we take a break and you look up and everybody is gone, you will know where you're supposed to be. And I'm the only boy in the entire courthouse. So if you just say my name, people will be able to direct you where you need to go. To my left is the court reporter. Diana, will you raise your hand, please? All right, she is taking down everything that everybody says. And if you can imagine, that's sort of difficult. The reason why I say that is because everybody speaks at a different pace. Some people talk low, some people talk soft, some people have accents, some people do not. I've been accused of having an accent. So in order to make her job easy, because I try to make people's job easy if I can, I'm going to need everyone to make sure that you speak loudly. Trust me, in this courtroom, you cannot speak too low. All right? So I want you all to do me a favor. Everyone, please raise the cards that you have in your possession. All right, and keep them raised until I ask you to lower them. So everyone in this box here, if you could lower your cards. Everyone just on this front row here, if you lower your cards. Anybody else who has their cards still raising, to make Diana's job easier, whenever you're asking a question or you have something to say, if you can stand, please stand, because she'll be able to hear. Our acoustics are not good. So when you're at the very back, she cannot hear from that far. All right? All right, you can lower your cards. And those cards you have are very important, because another thing, yes, she can take down two people talking at once, but that makes it very difficult. And sometimes she can't get everything that people are saying. So whenever there's something you want to respond to, or any time you want to say anything, just raise your card and someone will call on you and then you can speak. Now I'm going to introduce you, have the parties introduce themselves for the state of Texas.
Travis, thanks.
For the defense.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. E.R. Bites.
All right, and then your client.
And this is my client, Richard Thomas, by the way.
Okay. Right. So the charge in this case is indecency with a child by contact. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a little bit. I want to let you know that when attorneys speak to you and when I speak to you, they are all talking about hypotheticals. So neither party is allowed to let you know what they think the facts are. So when they talk to you, they are just speaking in hypotheticals. No one is allowed to talk to you about this specific case and this specific facts of what they think the facts are. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
Right. Now, I want to talk to you about an indictment. How many people have heard the word indictment before? Remember, raise your cards. I'm just getting you to practice raising your cards. All right, so I see a lot of people then have seen Mannix, Barnaby Jones, Quincy, MD. The young people have no idea what I'm talking about, but the other people know what I'm talking about. So an indictment is just a means whereby someone is brought to court for a trial if they choose to have a trial. It cannot be taken as evidence of guilt. It cannot be taken for anything whatsoever. Does everyone understand? How many people here have had a traffic ticket? Don't be shy. All right, so we have a lot of bad drivers here today. I'm glad you all made it. So I've had a traffic ticket before. The first time, I've only had one. When I had my traffic ticket, the officer gave me a piece of paper and he had his notebook. Now I don't think they have the notebook. I think maybe it's done all electronically. But let's say an officer says you ran a red light and they pull you over and they give you a ticket and you accept the ticket. Your accepting of that ticket does not mean you're saying you're guilty. That ticket is just to tell you what they're charging you with and where you need to be to answer for that. So an indictment is the same thing. An indictment is not evidence of guilt. It's not evidence of anything. It's just saying, this is what you're being accused of, and this is where you need to be to answer those charges. Does everyone understand? Now, everyone has a right to remain silent. I know people watch television. Sometimes people are like Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched. You want to know what everybody's doing and you want to say, this is what happened or that's what happened. But in criminal cases here in Texas and really throughout the United States, everyone has a right to remain silent. That basically means that nobody has to testify. There are many reasons why people may not want to testify. Sometimes people are shy. Sometimes people are afraid of public speaking. Sometimes people stutter. There are a whole host of reasons why somebody may decide not to testify. I've been a defense attorney and a prosecutor. Sometimes as a defense attorney, I would tell my client, there's no need for you to testify. The state can prove their case. So there are many reasons why somebody would not testify. You cannot hold it against somebody because they did not testify. You cannot say, well, I really wanted to know what that person would say. So because they didn't say anything, I'm going to take it as evidence of guilt. I'm going to say, I would have gotten up on the witness stand, so I'm going to hold it against that person. You are not allowed to do that. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
So in this case, if Mr. Thomas decides not to testify, you're not allowed to hold it against him. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
Is there anyone here who would hold it against him if he decided not to testify? Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about presumption of innocence. Everyone who's charged with an offense is presumed to be innocent until and unless the state proves its case against them beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's for every element. So, what does that mean? That means that the state may have to present evidence to you if you're selected for this jury. And you will have to look at that evidence and decide whether or not Mr. Thomas is guilty. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
So if you were asked right now what your vote would be in this case, what should your vote be right now? Yes. Well, not guilty. I heard innocent over here. Thank you. So a lot of people think that a jury trial is deciding whether someone is innocent. It's really not. When people go to a jury trial, it's to decide whether someone is guilty or not guilty, whether the state proved their case or did not prove their case. Now, in Texas, the burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the burden the state has. The defense does not have to prove anything. In law school, they would always use the example, defense attorney can go to sleep. Defense attorney can play video games. Defense attorney can play crosswords, puzzles, right? That's true. You know why? Because they don't have to prove anything. The defense is not, the evidence, the burden never shifts to the defense table. So if ever you're deliberating and you say to yourself, well, the defense should have brought this, or the defense should have done that, that means that you have shifted the burden from the state and moved it to the defense, and that is not allowed. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
Now, the next question is, Stephanie Boyd, what is proof beyond a reasonable doubt? When I was in law school, you had to memorize that definition
If you didn't know that definition, you felt like such a failure. So the very first trial I had to know that definition. I knew it forwards and backwards. I knew where to pause for dramatic effect. I knew where to put the comma. I knew where the exclamation point went. So after that trial, guess what? There is no longer a definition for proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So neither the state nor the defense can give you a definition because we no longer have a definition. So how I would explain it to people then was by telling them what it is not. Next door is the historic courthouse with the green rooftop. Over there, they try civil cases, car accidents, those type of things involving money. On those cases, the burden of proof is preponderance of evidence, more likely than not. If you're ever on a jury in a criminal case and you're deliberating and you say, I think maybe this happened more likely than not, you know that you are at the wrong burden because guess what? You're not in the historic courthouse, you're on the criminal side. The other burden of proof is what's called clear and convincing evidence. Clear and convincing evidence is what is used when people are terminating your parental rights. They're saying you're a danger to this child. I don't think you're a good parent. So therefore, we will legally no longer allow you to be this person's parent. That's on the civil side as well. That's a high burden. The highest burden we have, though, is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Does everyone understand? Now, there are two phases to every trial in Texas. The first phase is whether somebody's guilty or not guilty. If you decide somebody is not guilty, there is no second phase. If you find somebody is guilty, then there is a second phase. And that second phase is called punishment. Does everyone understand? Is there anyone here who is not able to sit in punishment of someone else? All right, number 35. All right, and people, when I say that, I mean, is there a religious reason? Is there? No. So here, if it's not a religious reason, something that will interfere with your psyche and destroy it so much that you can't sit in judgment of somebody, then that doesn't count. So if it's a religious reason, you need to have that Bible verse ready for me. And I'm from the South. All right. So 35, who else? Raise your card. Number 9, 57, and 61. Yes.
I don't understand English very well, so I understand what you're saying, but not everything.
All right, I'm going to get to that part.
Okay.
Thank you so much for letting me know. No, I appreciate it. All right, so I have number 9, 35, and 57. Oh, my question was whether or not you're able to sit in judgment of someone. Basically, deciding whether someone is guilty or not guilty. Right. All right, the next thing, I'm sorry, what's your number?
8, I'm sorry.
Number 8. All right, the next thing I want to talk to you all about is the range of punishment. Now, when I speak to you about range of punishment for offenses, a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck because I always ask them, can you consider the full range of punishment? And people will say, well, no, I need to know some facts. But remember what I told you, nobody is allowed to tell you what they think the facts are of this case. So everything is done hypothetically. For example, if there were a murder case and I asked you, well, let's not use murder because people are no longer eligible for probation for murder, but no, we'll go ahead and use the murder example. All right, if somebody was charged with murder, the range of punishment for murder is 5 to 99 years or life in prison. Does everybody understand? All right. Now, When I ask people, can you consider the full range of punishment for murder? Sometimes people will say, oh no, I can't do it. Somebody deserves life, or somebody deserves 90 years, or whatever you feel. But then when I have people to start thinking of examples of maybe whether you would consider 5 years for somebody, then they said, oh, I can see it in that situation. People would always give the example of, you have a couple, they're deeply in love, they've been high school sweethearts forever. One is dying. They are now in their 70s. One is dying. One has an incurable disease and they're in constant pain, and they keep telling their spouse, you know, I want to end it all, help me end it all. And they help them end it. In Texas, that's murder. Now, maybe in that case, you would consider not life in prison. Maybe you would consider 5 years. Does everybody understand? And so when I'm talking about considering the full range of punishment, I mean that you internally and mentally acknowledge this is the range of punishment. So if it were murder and I tell you the range of punishment is 5 to 99 years of life, you say, okay, I'm acknowledging that's the range of punishment. And then when I say, can you consider that full range of punishment if you were sentencing someone to punishment? So what that means is, will you, if there's punishment in a case, will you be able to listen to evidence, listen to facts, and make a decision on what you think someone should receive? Does everyone understand? All right. So, and you may see people coming through the side door. Some people are coming just to listen to voir dire. Number 9.
Number 6, I got about.
6. Sorry?
I need to use the bathroom.
All right. So,
I did too.
okay. Well, this is what we're going to do. Everyone, leave your cards in your place. Remember what courtroom you are in. And I will give you, is 2:25 enough time for everyone? All right. So here's the thing about the restrooms. If you find the stairway, no matter where you go, upstairs, downstairs, on either side is a restroom. So if there's a crowd on one side, you can go upstairs or downstairs and you will not get lost. All right, everyone, please rise. And everyone must leave the courtroom. Yes, that's the way it works. I'm sorry. So where I left off with y'all, I was talking about the range of punishment. And how when I talk to jurors about ranges of punishment, they find it very difficult because they don't know the facts of the case. And they always say, well, I don't know if I would do this or that because I don't know the facts of the case. Nobody is asking you what you would give in a specific case if you were to find somebody guilty, because these are all hypothetical. But what I'm asking you to do is internalize the range of punishment and then be able to consider it. So, for example, in these cases, or this case in particular, the range of punishment may be anywhere from probation to 20 years in prison. Does everybody understand? And the minimum, if you were to sentence someone to prison, would be 2 years all the way up to 20. So as you can imagine, there is a wide range of punishment. There's probation, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 20 years. And the reason why that's such a wide range of punishment is because you can think of different situations where maybe somebody would deserve probation, or you think they should get probation, and maybe where somebody gets 2 years, or maybe somebody gets 20 years. So in cases involving children, sometimes people think, oh, well, now that I've heard facts on something, this is a 16-year-old and maybe the person is 20. I've watched some programs where somebody was convicted and now they are 40 and they're married to the former 16-year-old who's now in her 30s, or he is now in his 30s. So that's what we mean when we say range of punishment, not that you would give it in this specific case because you don't know the facts, but whether or not you can internalize that this is the range of punishment and that you will be able to consider that if you were to find someone guilty and put the facts of whatever you hear to make a decision on punishment. Is there anyone here who could not consider the full range of punishment. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to you about is what's called the one witness rule. I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Do not add to the hypothetical that I am about to give you. Here's the hypothetical. Someone is in a parking lot. It's dark, and somebody robs them or commits an offense against them. They call the police and they say, oh, I know who did it. It's this person. I can describe how they look. You're with me on my hypothetical? Here's the question for you. Because there is only two people who know what happened in the parking lot, the person who's saying, I know who did it, this is the person who did it, and the person who's alleged to have done it. Is there anyone here thinks that that's a case where people should say, well, you know what, we're not gonna even report this because there's only two people? Is there anyone who feels that way? So here's my hypothetical for you. There is a person who says a crime has been committed against them. They come in and they take the witness stand. They're sworn in, they're sworn to tell the truth. They testify. You believe what they're saying. There is no question about their eyesight, because people always want to add to my hypothetical and say, well, maybe their vision was off. They have perfect eyesight. There's no question about their memory. Their memory is excellent and perfect. The witness is credible, which means you believe the witness. And this one witness proves the state's case. Everything the state must prove, this witness testifies to, and you believe it. Does everyone understand the hypothetical? Is there anyone here who would not be able to find someone guilty in that hypothetical case? Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you is about languages. I love languages. In undergrad, in grad school, and in law school, people, yes, number 75?
Yeah, I'm going back to the one you were just talking about right now. I think it'd be hard for me to say.
You need to stand up.
I think it would be hard for me to convict somebody just based on what one other person is saying with no other witness.
All right, thank you. Now, I want to talk to you about the English language. So when I was in school, there were many people around me who spoke several languages. When I was in junior high, now they call it middle school, we had a choice of what languages we wanted to take on as a second elective. Of course, I'm in Louisiana. I have dreams that I'm going to Paris. I'm going to live there. I'm going to retire at 21. None of that happened. So I learned French. My classmate kept telling me, Stephanie, we need to take Spanish. And I said, nope, I'm taking French. I had no idea I would be in Texas. I regret not taking Spanish. And then when I went to law school, some of my classmates who were from the Middle East spoke 6 languages minimum. And I thought, this was fantastic. This is so great. They tried to teach me different languages. I pretty much know how to say hurry up in almost every language. That's the only thing that I could pick up. So with that being said, I'm going to ask people to raise your card if English is not your first language. All right, number 1, 6, and when I call your card, if you lower it, 19, 24, 32, 34, 35, 45, and 57. All right, juror number 1, what's your first language? All right, have you been able to understand everything that we talked about? How do you say hurry up in Spanish? All right, see, difference, but when people come in, there's always somebody else who says that way and then another way. So what's the other way to say it? Oh, somebody's saying underlay.
Andale.
All right, thank you. All right, number 6. All right, have you been able to understand everything?
Yes.
All right, did she tell me how to say hurry up correctly?
Yeah.
See, he doesn't sound confident.
Depends, just from Puerto Rico, we got different things, so
All right, so how do you say it?
avanza.
Ah, all right, thank you. Number 19. 19, yes. Have you been able to understand everything? Are they correctly telling me how to say hurry up?
Yeah.
All right, if they're not, just let me know. Number 24.
Spanish,
All right, have you been able to understand everything?
yes.
All right, 32.
Spanish,
Have you been able to understand everything? All right. Number 34.
Spanish.
Have you been able to understand everything?
Yes.
Okay. 35. Ah. So how do you say hurry up? Yes, that's what I learned from my friend. That's all I know. All right, have you been able to understand everything? All right, thank you. 45.
Spanish.
All right, have you been able to understand everything? All right, and guys, remember, if you're not on these 3 rows, if you can stand so that the court reporter can see you and hear you. 57. And what is your first language? Arabic?
Moroccan.
Ah, so is he right in telling me yalla yalla?
That's a different dialogue. Yes, it's an Arabic, but not Moroccan. Moroccan, we see Serbi. It's a little bit different.
All right, thank you. Oh, we got different sayings. All right, thank you so much. Have you been able to understand everything? I know I talked to you beforehand.
Not different.
All right, thank you so much. All right, the next thing I want to talk to you about is travel arrangements. Is there anyone here who has maybe tickets, they're going somewhere, they can't change them to my name? Anybody who has anything of that nature? Now, let me just tell you, I don't see this going into September. So if you want to tell us about some trip you have in September, you're just want us to be jealous. But otherwise, if not, raise your card. And when I call your number, place your card down. 1, 4, 8, 9, 16, 24, 41, 49, 55, 60, and 75. All right, number 1, where are you headed? And when are you leaving? The 15th? All right, thank you. Number 4,
Albuquerque, New Mexico,
and what are you doing there and when are you leaving?
taking my daughter to college,
Ah, which college?
University of New Mexico.
Did y'all look at LSU?
Uh,
When are you leaving?
Wednesday, the 16th.
All right. Number 8,
Florida, leaving Thursday.
Thursday. What are you doing in Florida?
R&R, reflection.
Ah, okay. Which part of Florida? All right. Number 9. All right, when are you leaving to Georgia? Friday. Are you leaving to sort of placate them because LSU is gonna do some wonderful things in the football season?
I want to come in and pass.
Oh, okay, all right. Number 16.
I'm not going on vacation, but I'm leaving tomorrow out of town for a family funeral.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Number 24.
Colombia,
And when are you leaving?
on the 29th.
I'm sorry, when?
29,
25?
29.
No, I'm moving on to the next person. Was it 25 or 28? When? Okay, I'm not even gonna ask you what you're doing.
Business.
Okay. Number 41.
I travel for work, so I was in Oklahoma last night and I got in at 5 a.m. to be here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So when is your next time leaving?
I'm gonna leave San Antonio. I leave San Antonio Monday to Friday, basically. I leave tomorrow. I'll be gone to Mississippi.
All right, thank you.
What number is that? Sorry.
41.
41.
49.
I'm preparing my leave back to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm on a full-ride scholarship there. So I'm station base team. That's going to be on August 14th, around that time, maybe before.
All right, congratulations. 55.
Going out of town, the 7th, Round Rock. So I'll be on for the weekend.
You know, Round Rock has great donuts, so I hear. I've never tried them.
They really do.
So that's September 17th,
August 7th.
August 17th. All right, number 60.
Family vacation, 13th through the 15th, South Padre.
Does the family want you there?
I got littles, the wife probably really does want me.
All right. Number 75.
Heading to the Bahamas on the 14th through the 20th.
August 14th through the 28th. What are you doing in the Bahamas? All right, what are you celebrating?
So, it's our 20th anniversary. We're heading up, that Monday, St. Opportunity.
Oh, congratulations. Number 70. 70.
Oklahoma City this Friday.
What are you doing in Oklahoma City?
I take my grandkids up there for my dad's 80th.
Okay, all right, thank you. Number, are you 9? Number, oh, you're 6. Yes, no,
Which I'm on the road driver. Sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm not. So like my works, we get discussion more probably going out of the road. I
okay.
don't know what my schedule is look like. It's on my nature of the job.
Okay. All right, everyone. So I understand that people have different employment that they have to do, and that is very important. But this is what someone told me one time. They said, Stephanie, if anything were to happen to you, you know what we would do? Now I'm thinking he's going to say, they're going to shut the city down. People are just going to be distraught in the streets. No, you know what he said? They're going to say next. So I always tell people with employment, if you're the only person who can do that job, by that I mean, if you were to win the lottery and you quit today and don't give any notice, you are indispensable. If they tell you, oh, well, we're never going to be able to fill this position, this is done for. If you're the person who delivers groceries and you win the lottery and you quit delivering groceries and they say, oh, well, there's not going to be any grocery delivery anymore because there's absolutely nobody on the planet who can do that, then you're indispensable. So I want to tell you all 2 stories before I turn it over to the state and the defense. And both these stories are true. So my family, and when I say my family, I mean my mother, her siblings, my grandmother, they all grew up in a small town called Grand Cane, Louisiana. In its heyday, I think maybe it had 2,500 people. So my uncle, super intelligent. And that was back in the day where the teachers didn't have to call anybody or write a report. They would just move you up a grade because we've taught you all we can teach you. We're moving you up to the next grade. So they did that for my uncle. Now, of course, with his sisters and his brother, when they came to school, because everybody knew everybody, they would tell them, we know your brother, we're expecting a lot out of you because he's super intelligent. So he ended up graduating high school early and the Vietnam War breaks out. And he tells my grandmother, you know what? They're drafting all of the boys here. I'm just going to go ahead and sign up. Well, because of his age, she was going to have to give him permission to sign up. And if you think about it, in those days, there was no internet. My mother had, she would always tell us their phone number was 4 digits, and that's where you pick up the phone and the operator, you would give the operator the number and they would call it. You know, all those songs, Beechwood 47659, that's how it was for them. So all they had was snail mail. Nobody had, honestly, nobody had even really heard of Vietnam. It wasn't on the radar. So if you can imagine that my grandmother, she signed, and she was sending him halfway across the world, underage, only getting updates on television. That was the time where you had 3 channels, but NBC didn't play well, so you just got static. And that was the time when the television would end at a certain time, and then they play the national anthem, and then you just get the white noise. So there was no way for her to check on her firstborn. All she could do was pray that he's going to be safe, write a letter, wait for months for a letter to come back that he's still alive. So I tell people that story to tell people that jury duty is an inconvenience. It's not a sacrifice. My grandmother sending her firstborn to fight in the war, not knowing if he's going to come back, that's a sacrifice. So when people have jury duty, your inconvenience is, guess what? Parking. You got to pay for parking. I don't think you should have to pay for parking, but I'm not in charge of that. The fact that you drive downtown, and when you drive downtown, there are several one-ways, and you see the building that you need to go to. I'm sorry, who's that? Excuse me, who are you? Yes, you can visit. Thank you. All right. People come in, they want to see jury selection. Oh, no, welcome. All right. Deputy Laura, can you maybe take her around the back and she could sit here? All right. We have students come in here all the time. So it's an inconvenience because you see a one-way and you see the building that you're supposed to go to. And if you could just turn right, you'll be right there. But no, they make you drive around downtown. You're trying to find the building. The only thing your government asks of you these days, pay taxes and jury duty. And you don't even get called up for jury duty every month. Like the government could make a law and say, you know what? Everybody should have jury duty once every 2 months, but you don't. You get jury duty and maybe you get another call up 3 years from now. So this is an inconvenience and I understand that. So that's the one story I want to tell you. The other story I want to tell you is about my friend that I went to law school with. She had jury duty. We hadn't seen each other because she decided she wanted to do civil work and I wanted to do criminal work. So on the civil side, and I know civil attorneys don't like when I say this, they're usually not in court every single day. On the criminal side, people are usually in court every single day. So she calls me up and says she has jury duty. And she says, Stephanie, let's do lunch, because we hadn't seen each other forever. So we do lunch and I'm talking to her and I ask her, how is jury selection going? And she tells me it is going fabulous. Looking back on it, I'm like, how could it be fabulous? You're not in the 187th with me, but she tells me it's going great. I say, well, what's so great about it? She's like, I'm not going to get selected. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to get selected? She said, it's like when we were in law school. I'm on the back row. I'm keeping my head down. I'm not saying anything. And I tell her, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great week. And she asked me why. I said, because we're going to have lunch every day this week, because the people who are usually on juries are people who are very quiet. Or if you raise your card and say, please place me on this jury. And I tell that true story because both the state and the defense, they're going to have a limited amount of time to talk to you. And they're trying to learn as much about you as possible to see if you will be a good fit for this jury. And so they just want you to talk to them so they can get to know you. Does everybody understand? Now, when people talk to you about whether you can be fair or not, I know that when people come to court, they have things that maybe have happened in their past. I don't want to say it's an issue, but it's something that impacts you. So remember, for this case, the main question that you need to be asking yourself is, if you are selected for this jury, would you be able to base your decision, if you come to a decision, on whether Mr. Thomas is guilty or not guilty, just based upon the evidence that you hear in this courtroom? So it's okay to have feelings about certain things or have something in your past that impacts you. But in jury trials, the main question is whether or not you can sit and listen to the evidence and base whatever decision you come to, if you come to a decision, on what you hear from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, with that being said, each side is going to have 30 minutes to speak to you, and I'm going to turn it over to the state.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Ruben Herrera. I represent the state with the District Attorney's Office of Bexar County. Like Judge said, this is the only time that we're going to get to talk to you, both sides, prior to selecting the jury and then beginning the trial. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the law. I'm going to ask all of y'all some questions. Some may be a little bit personal. If you ever feel like maybe you want to talk about something or explain something out of the presence of everybody else, raise your hand, let me know. But otherwise, you know, the more you talk, the more you help out both sides. Let's get started. So again, like Judge let you know, the defendant is Richard Thomas. He's charged with indecency with a child by contact and sexual assault of a child. So what is jury selection? Again, the only time we're gonna get to speak to you. The goal of both the state and the defense is to find 12 fair, unbiased people that will be able to sit and listen to the evidence on the case that we're presenting to you. We can't get into any specific facts of the case, so everything that we talk about is gonna be hypothetical, general, kind of, sorry, I'll slow down there. General hypothetical details, about certain situations. There's no wrong answers. If you all look at your feet, there's no trap doors. You're not going to be sent anywhere for answering anything wrong. Your opinions are very valuable to all of us, so we just want you to answer as truthfully as possible. And again, like Judge said, the quiet ones are the ones to get picked. So the more often you talk, the better the chances you're going to say something that maybe one of us doesn't like. So raise your hand if anybody can tell me who this gentleman is. And make sure you raise your numbers as well. Let's go with number 27. If you can stand up and speak. That's Willie Nelson. And number 27, what is one of Willie Nelson's favorite things to do?
Smoke pot.
There you go. Now, if we were presenting, you can have a seat. Thank you. Now, if we were presenting to you all possession of marijuana case, would Willie Nelson be the best juror to have sit on that case? And so it's possible that he could be a little bit biased based on his preference of extracurricular activities, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to find here. We want to find 12 people that can sit on the jury that are going to be good jurors for this case. Now, you might not be a good juror for this case, you might be a good juror for another case. But we want to find 12 people with unbiased, fair opinions to sit on this jury. So what is a fair and impartial juror? It's someone who will follow the law that's given to them by the judge, and someone who will base their decision only on the facts that are presented in this case. Now, the state's burden is to prove every element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt. So what does that mean? Doesn't mean beyond all doubt. So we don't have to prove everything to you. We don't have to prove the elements 100% that they happen. If we were able to provide you, or if you knew exactly what happened 100%, you wouldn't be sitting on the jury because you would be a witness. You would know exactly what happened, and you wouldn't be eligible to sit on the jury. So again, it's not 100%. What we have to do is prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's reasonable. So we just have to prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt, not all possible doubt. And the reasonable doubt that you may have only applies to the elements of the offense. Now, you can have, for example, a reasonable doubt about whether or not somebody was wearing a red shirt versus a blue shirt, or whether it happened at 12:01 versus 12:02. You can have reasonable doubts about those. However, we have to prove to you the elements of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt, not every specific detail beyond a reasonable doubt. To kind of illustrate that, I have a picture here. Raise your hand if you have an idea of what happened in this picture. Let me go over here. Number 2, what happened?
Cat did it.
The cat did it. All right. Is there a cat there?
No.
No. So is it based on the picture, what's likely that, or what do you believe happened?
The dog tore up the chair.
The dog tore up the chair. Now, is it possible that the cat did it?
It is possible.
Is it-
Cat in the house?
Is it possible that a random person walking past your window saw that chair, said, I don't like that chair, broke in and cut it up, and then just left your dog right there? Exactly. So that's kind of what I'm illustrating here. Just because it's possible doesn't mean that it's reasonable based on the evidence and the facts that are presented to you in this case. So again, it's possible that the cat did it, but based on what you're looking at here, is it reasonable to believe anything else other than the dog chewed up this chair? No, right? Okay. So that's what we're trying to show you. We're going to present to you the facts and the evidence, and the goal is the state's burden is to prove those elements of the offense to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, not beyond all possible doubt, but beyond a reasonable doubt. So the charge of indecency with the childlike contact. I've been talking a lot about elements of the offense. These are the elements of that offense. So it's the state's burden to prove to you that on or about some date anterior to the indictments, just before the case was indicted, in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant did intentionally or knowingly engage in sexual contact, and that includes the touching of the genitals, the anus, or a female breast, and it also includes under or over clothing, with a child younger than 17 years of age, with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. Okay, and I'll go through and we'll go a little bit more in depth into those elements. Before we do that, the defendant is also charged here with sexual assault of a child. And these are the elements of that offense. So again, we have to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about some date anterior to the indictment in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant did intentionally or knowingly cause the penetration of the sexual organ, mouth, or anus of a child younger than 17 years of age. Okay, so talking a lot about children, child, what is the definition of a child? The age is the only factor in determining who is a child and who is not a child. Now, the defendant here is charged with sexual assault of a child. If a child complainant in a case were under the age of 14 years, that would be charged as an aggravated sexual assault of a child. That's not the charge here. So you're not going to be seeing, or you're not going to be hearing from a complainant who is under the age of 14 years. In order to be charged with sexual assault of a child, again, like you saw in the elements, the child has to be younger than 17 years of age. So we're looking at a complainant between the ages of 14 and 16 years old. Intentionally or knowingly, those are elements in both of the offenses. And what do those mean? The person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the result of his conduct when it is his conscious objective or desire to cause the result. So an example of that, let's imagine here that my partner Travis's water bottle is open. Okay, I go ahead and grab that off the table and I pour out all the water that's in there and it all ends up on the carpet. I intended to wet the carpet with that water. I knew what was going to happen, so I poured out all of that intentionally, right? Now, knowingly is when a person acts either knowingly or with knowledge with respect to a result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. Now, let's use that same water bottle. It's open, it's sitting at the edge of the table. I knock it over. All the water gets on the carpet. That's knowingly. I knew by knocking over that water bottle, that water was going to end up on the carpet. Okay, I didn't cause the water to fall over. I just knocked over the water bottle. But I knew that by knocking over that water bottle, the water was going to end up on the carpet. Everybody see the kind of distinguishing factor between those two? Okay. And now the state does not have to prove that he acted intentionally and knowingly. We have to prove one or the other, that he acted intentionally or knowingly in order to satisfy the burden of that element. Now, raise your hand if you can answer this. I want to get your opinions. What is the balance of power and control in a sexual relationship between an adult and a child? How would you describe that? Number 43. If you can stand up on this.
I feel like it might be like a little bit swayed because an adult obviously has more authority over a child, and children, they're not fully developed and don't have always a true understanding, and they look to adults to give answers.
Okay. Number 20.
Well, I think children are just innocent.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
That adults, they feel that adults normal.
Okay.
And children don't, but they follow their law.
So they kind of defer to what the adult wants.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 14. Continue.
Oh.
No, go ahead, number
I
14.
would say that the balance is, there is no balance. In that kind of like sexual relationship dynamic, the power is fully with the adult.
Okay. Number 10.
I was gonna say the adult, my opinion, should know the difference from right and wrong. Child may not know the difference in they think it might be right because they have trust.
Okay. Thank you all for your opinions. So yes, I mean, in these situations, like number 20 said, the adult in any kind of adult-child relationship usually has more of the power, usually has more of the influence, especially in a sexual relationship. That adult is going to know more, first of all, about a sexual relationship. And then in instilling that relationship with the child, that adult is going to have more power there, right? Are there any innocent reasons why an adult would choose to engage in a sexual relationship with a child?
No,
No,
no.
Who said no? Number 33, if you can stand up for me. Why do you feel that?
Well, relating back to the previous question, I believe that especially in a sexual relationship, a child cannot consent. So I don't believe that there would be any innocent justification to engage in a sexual relationship with a child.
Okay. Anybody else? Fine. So I have a question here. Would anybody here raise your number? Would anybody trust an older child? So again, between 14 and 16 years old, would they trust their child to come and go from the house all hours of the night? Raise your hand if you agree with that you would allow your older child to leave and come back whenever they want. And again, there's no wrong answers, there's no trapdoors. And keep your numbers up if you
Talking
agree.
about older, what age you talking about?
14 and 16. Okay, go ahead and raise your number and keep it raised. Number 5, number 7, and number 10. Okay. Raise your number if you would trust your older child to do your family's taxes. If you would trust your older child to do your family's taxes. Nobody? All right. What about making their own decisions for cosmetic surgery?
No.
Nobody? So kind of what I'm trying to get to here is that a child may think that they're being adult by choosing to have sex or engage in a sexual relationship, but they may not be completely capable of that level of thinking, right? So relating it kind of to, they might try to do the taxes, but they don't understand everything like an adult would, right? Anybody that disagrees with me? No? Okay. Is there anybody that believes that around that age, 14 to 16, it's acceptable for a child to engage in a sexual relationship?
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course. Can you show your number, please?
Sorry,
That's number 5.
there's a lot of 14, 12 and 14, 15, 16-year-olds that act like adults. And not to mention, they dress like adults. So, how can you judge
Okay.
a 14, and a 16, you're letting your child go out dressed like that? That comes from home, I think,
Okay.
parenting, like,
So it's kind of something that's instilled by their upbringing.
yeah.
Okay. And so,
'Cause some of these kids, they think they're old enough, and the way they talk, oh my gosh, and you're only like, what, 12, really?
okay.
Talking like that? So, I don't know, I just.
Is there anybody who agrees or has a similar opinion with number 5? Go ahead and raise your number up. Number 31, 7, 10, 51, and 55. Number 51. What are your thoughts about that? Or
I kind of agree. It's just how we dress, social media.
okay, so based on how they dress, it might be acceptable, more or less acceptable.
I would say it's.
Well, not saying acceptable, but they're throwing themselves out there.
Okay.
All right, so everyone, sorry to interrupt, but remember, make sure it's only one person
Sorry.
at a time. No problem.
I wanna add something to
Okay, number 23. If you can stand up for me so the court reporter can hear you.
So I think, especially nowadays, there's sometimes a disconnect between what we as parents feel is acceptable and what our children are actually doing. Okay. With social media and a lot of the things that are going on nowadays, it's not the same as it was maybe 20, 30 years ago. Okay. I remember, as an experience when I grew up, there were certain expectations, and in my household, that's the way it was. And we didn't deviate from that. But that's not the case nowadays a lot of times, and as a parent, a lot of times you don't really have any control over that anymore. Not that we excuse it, but there's this reality sometimes that our kids aren't doing everything or living up to the rules that we set forth.
Okay.
And so I'm not saying that I accept that, or I excuse it, or I think that they should be. I don't. They're too young to make that decision. But at the same time, there are plenty of kids out there, 14, 16 nowadays. They're doing just that. Way more than as parents that we like to think happens.
And I'm sorry, I do want to move on. This kind of goes into my next question. So, does a child's behavior ever justify a sexual assault?
No.
Okay. I know we talked about dress. Does that have any effect on it?
No.
No? Is there ever any reason why somebody might think, oh, they were doing this, so this is why that happened?
No.
Number 65?
I think as I have kids, I have a 14-year-old daughter. And a 14-year-old and 16-year-old is two different things, which we don't know the age.
Mhm.
But my opinion is that a 16-year-old can drive a car, can lie about her age. And so, the facts really do matter from a 14, 16-year-old because they have higher decisions because they're 2 years away from 18. Like you said, a 17-year-old can make a decision a year later. So a 6-year-old and a 14-year-old, for me, I feel like it's a big difference in gap in age because every age has a different responsibilities and a different choice, especially if they lie about their age. A lot of girls dress older, just like how they were usually.
Is there, and kind of feeding off of 65's answer, I know you were talking about, a 60-year-old maybe lying about their age. Is there, how do you know, or is there any ways that you could show that somebody would be lying about their age? Can anybody think of anything?
I do.
Number 43?
Well, just like saying on that, like it goes back to can a child.
Can you stand up, please?
Can a child should behavior ever be justified or whatever you were saying like about that? Is that with them being a little bit older, if they're lying about their age, then how do you know? Like, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. No, I guess you can never confidently know, but there's things that you can tell, like certain behaviors are acceptable, and when you're an adult, you can kind of notice those things and point it out a little bit more than if they were younger, or like a child, and I don't think they'll always make those decisions completely on their own. So maybe that would tell if it throw you off.
Number 20?
At the end of the day, whatever is addressing from social media and everything, it just goes back to where still, it doesn't matter how to address, how to down, whatever, but at the end of the day, that question. Okay, if you are going out.
Okay. Number 48?
Kind of like what I see in like the difference between like say someone who is like maybe more mature or over the age of 18. And I'm not saying that that's like the exact gap, but I think someone would be like in their 30s is I think a lot more conscious of the possible negative effects or consequences of their actions, whereas somebody maybe under the age of 18 or a minor would be less truly aware of the negative consequences. They may have maybe some small inkling of what that could be hypothetically, but I don't think they truly think through any of those actions. I think somebody much older would be cognizant of what those actions could be, but still intentionally does or knowingly does the action.
Okay. And so do you have any number?
To me, it ties back to the question about the power in the relationship. To me, if you are the older person in the relationship, built into that, there is power because of that inequity between an adult and a child. That also puts extra responsibility on the adult to know who they are getting involved with because they have more knowledge, they have more experience, they know the significance of what they're doing, where the child does not recognize that. And the adult has the responsibility to protect the child from what they don't know and what they don't understand because they're not old enough. So with that power comes that responsibility.
Thank you. And number 50.
Your question was, I believe a child is 16 or whatever age. How does an adult know how old that child is?
Correct.
Was that what you asked, because that's what I'm.
Correct, yeah. How would you be able
So
to,
I have grandchildren. I worked for SAPA from their children. I saw a lot of things happen. Minors, they have driver's license, they have IDs, they have school IDs. They have friends. You should know if they're hanging out with young people, they're probably young. There's a way for you to figure out whether the person is an adult or not.
thank you. And number 4?
Yeah, I call me old fashioned, but if you have to ask, you probably shouldn't be involved with that person.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so now, talking about victims of sexual assault, do victims of sexual assault always come forward? Do they always tell somebody right away?
No.
Now, what are some reasons why a victim of sexual assault may not tell someone as soon as the incident occurs? Number 1?
Some of the reasons I think would be 1, because they're ashamed and of what happened, and number 2 could be because they don't really know what happened, because they think maybe they look up to the person that is actually the person that is assaulting them. Maybe they have a personal relationship, whether they trust them, whether they think what they're doing is okay, because they don't have the awareness of it not being okay.
Number 12?
They might be scared of what others might think about, their peers, family, and teachers. They're higher up, basically.
Okay.
And they're scared to, they change somehow. If that, I guess, innocence has been taken away, or personality or whatnot, it's been washed away.
So they might be ashamed, they might be scared. Number 7?
One of the reasons I think that the victim may not tell someone as soon as the incident happened is they feel that is people are going to be judgmental. And then 2, which this reality as it is, they may have, that young person could have, possibly was the instigator and thought she was grown and was acting grown and got in a situation. But mainly I think because people feel judgmental.
Number 19?
One thing that what happens is whenever, say, some people are 16, they think they're grown, and they want to hang out with the older crowd. So, say, what was really happening, so say when they get to that older age, they can look back and think like, well, like, for example, this person 16-year-old, like, kid, like, they shouldn't be in that scenario. And it's not until that time that they look back and think like, okay, maybe something shouldn't have happened, and I put myself in that situation. But they didn't know it was wrong until, like I said, they get more mature and are able to think about that situation.
And number 36?
They may not say anything.
Okay, so they think, maybe people will think they're lying. Okay, yeah. Now, I worded this question a little bit weird, but do children, even in instances of sexual assault, do they always come out and tell you exactly what happened? Say they get in trouble at school or something like that, do you always expect children to come out? No. Number 16?
I worked for Child Protective Services on the parole board for many years, and children don't, and you shouldn't expect them to cry out. They don't. They're scared. They are people pleasers. They don't want to cause trouble. If they're already being abused and they're going to bring trouble to the family, a lot of times the child will get in trouble for bringing it up, because now look what you've done. You've caused a bunch of trouble in our family. I don't care if the child's 3 or 16. So they don't cry out, and they're just normally afraid, and they want to be believed and they want to be loved, and they don't feel like that.
Number 14?
Absolutely rings true for me. I had personal experience with a best friend who was abused by our teacher on high school. She didn't come out with that until 5 years later. She was afraid of retaliation.
Okay.
She was afraid of grades, recommendations. Yeah, everyone loved this teacher. How could she come out against it? And she kept it buried for years.
So that's another reason why somebody might not come out right away, fear of retaliation. Number 3?
I think it's because they feel guilty, like it's their fault.
Like it's their fault?
It's their fault, and if they tell another parent or adult, they're gonna be mad at them.
Okay. Now, do people do people sometimes make up allegations of sexual assault?
Yes.
Why would somebody make up an allegation of assault? For what reason? Number
Attention.
55?
I think that's, somebody would make it up just because they don't like the person. Maybe that person did something to them, not indirectly or directly, that they wanted to cause harm or put them into a situation where then seeing them in that situation, that person would not be able to do anything further that would affect somebody else, so that they wouldn't have to deal with it later on.
Okay. Number 7?
One of the reasons maybe a person would make up an allegation is that if that person made an advance and the person refused to accept the advance, maybe just make an allegation that's if, someone abused them.
So, just to clarify, are you talking about the victim making an advance and
Right.
being
I'm talking about
rebuffed?
the victim making an advance and the person who she or he made the advance to refuse and they thought they should.
But you feel rejected.
Feel rejected.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Judge. Now, would anybody hold it against a victim who waited to outcry? Would anybody hold that against somebody if they made a delayed outcry?
No.
Okay. So the type of evidence that we're going to present to you, and I'm going to move through this a little bit quickly. This isn't Hollywood, so we're not going to have a smoking gun come in here and that's going to be it. We're not going to have a expert witness that tells you exactly what happened. However, we will present to you, or we anticipate to present to you in most cases, testimony. Testimony is evidence. So anything you hear from a witness on the witness stand, you can take that back with you in deliberations and take that as evidence in your deliberations. Now, where do these types of cases happen? Sexual assault cases. Do they happen, in front of thousands of people at Memorial Stadium, or do they happen at the home? Okay. And who's usually around in these types of cases?
No one.
And you can raise your number. Number 17.
Typically, it's the victim and the person they're accusing.
Okay, so typically there's only the 2 parties involved, right? Now, what type of evidence would you expect to see in these kind of cases? Would you expect to see photos in sexual assault cases? No. Videos, a video recording? Possibly, right? But not always. If it happens in the home, there's not always a high-tech security system there to capture everything. Are there other witnesses? Sometimes. Majority of the time, not really though. Is there anybody who would require any of these types of evidence in order to reach a verdict? So not just based on testimony evidence, would they require anything more than testimony to reach a verdict? You can go ahead and raise your number if you do. 47, 55, 20, 36, 43, 75, 5, 6, 7, 10 is your number up? So 9, 10, and 11, and 28, and 41. Okay, thank you very much. And 37? Okay. I'll skip over this. Judge already went over this with you. Again, it's your job to determine the credibility of witnesses. So again, we kind of went over this. Who might be a witness in this case? Usually it's only the victim and the defendant, right? What are some ways that you can tell if someone's telling the truth? Go ahead and raise your number. Number 21.
Body language.
Body language. 43.
If their story is consistent.
So consistency in their story. 59.
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Number 49.
There's a way of reaching a certain level of vulnerability within a courtroom and being in a public space that someone needs to get to in order to be fully believed. So I'm an actor of like many years, and so to be able to like kind of like dissect that and to view someone like how they might be psychologically getting themselves to that point to be believed is something to keep in mind.
Ma'am, can I have you slow down, please, and repeat what she says?
Can we go back?
Yeah, go ahead. You can repeat.
I feel there is a level of vulnerability that someone needs to get to in order to be fully and authentically believed. I've been an actor of many years, and to be able to kind of tap into what it takes for someone to psychologically be able to execute that in front of a public space takes a lot, and for it to be successful. But it also depends on like the details that they give, the story that they're trying to tell in order to be believed, with everything adding up as well.
All right, time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, does anyone need a break before I turn it over to the defense? Yes, all right. All right.
Sorry.
No, there's no need to apologize. Whenever anyone, if you ever need a break, just let us know. No need to apologize. We'll give you a break. And if you just do the break sign, that way I'll see it or either the deputy will see it. All right, so everyone knows where the restroom is. Everyone look to your left, look to your right. You're responsible for that juror that you looked at. So I'm going to bring you all back here at, I'm going to bring you all back in at 3:35. So just make sure you're lined up outside at 3:35 in your proper order and leave your numbers behind. 3:35. Defense, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Hey, please, court. Counselors, ladies and gentlemen of the potential jury, I have to admit, I'm impressed thus far. Done many of these trials, and I've never seen so many people wanting to talk as this jury. I love it, making our jobs much easier. You have to remember that there's always two sides of the story. And if you heard Paul Harvey, he'll tell you the rest of the story. Now, before I continue, I have to ask, because I did not hear the judge nor the prosecutor ask this question. Do any of you know the prosecutor here is sitting right to my left? Do anybody or you know them personally? How about his partner? Any of you? How about my client? Any of you know him personally? Finally, any of you know me personally? Number, please.
37.
Number 37, you just stand up. Can you describe for the court how is it that you know me personally?
Oh, we used to go to the same church.
You go to the same church? And is that gonna hinder your ability to listen to the evidence as it's presented to you?
Possibly.
So that means that you have already an inclination towards my client,
Possibly.
but you haven't heard the story.
No.
You haven't heard any evidence.
No.
In fact, if I was to ask you right now, how's my client, as he sit right here, how's my client right now? Is he guilty, not guilty, or?
I couldn't determine that.
So based on that, the fact that we go to the same church, and by the way, do I still go to that church?
I don't know. I don't go to that church anymore.
Okay. Then we don't go to the same
We don't go to the same church
church.
anymore.
Is that gonna hinder you, your ability to listen to the evidence on either side and be, like the judge says, fair and impartial to the evidence?
I would prefer to be excluded if possible.
You would prefer me, you don't even go to the same church anymore. Was I such a bad pastor that you can be? Anybody else? All right. Well, I did not ask for that picture. That picture,
That's the picture.
I really enjoyed that picture. I have several dogs myself. And so this is the question that I have for you guys. Reasonable doubt is such a, we're placing such a strong emphasis on reasonable doubt, and it is their burden. They have to prove to you the elements beyond a reasonable doubt. You haven't heard a definition of it because the Supreme Court says, yeah, you are going to be deciding on that. We cannot tell you what it is. We cannot tell you what it means. We can tell you what we think it is. We can give you examples. We can give you hypotheticals, things of that nature. So imagine, if you will, there are other dogs in this household. But because this dog is the one in front of the couch, does that mean that that's a dog that committed a horrendous cat situation? So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, your job is a serious job. And I really appreciate the Madam number 37 able to say that she knows me personally and it's going to affect her. In the same token, if something in the past is going to affect you, we need to know. Because we need to be able to listen to the evidence and then determine whether it was in fact that dog or another dog. Is that fair? Based on that, how many of you believe that a child always tells the truth? If you do, please raise your number. Because if you do, I want to find out how you raise your child. Anybody? So then let me switch it around. Is it possible for a child to lie? Now, if you believe that, raise your cards. And I'm going to go right here. I'm sorry, I'm going to make you guys wait for a little. Number one. Says here that you have no children. So how would you know?
There are many children, obviously.
So your assessment is based on other children, not your own. So you couldn't answer that question fair, could you?
I have a fair answer because I have family, I have nephews.
But you don't have any children.
I don't.
So you really don't know whether your particular child has a propensity to lie or not, because you don't have one.
Yeah.
Would you know and recognize the trait if you had a child of, hey, you know, he or she might be telling the truth? He or she might not.
I wouldn't be able to tell because I don't have a child.
You wouldn't be able to tell. Thank you for your candor. Is that going to hinder your ability to render a judgment based on the evidence? The fact that you don't have any children, would that prevent you in any way? You don't think so? Okay. I'm sorry. Y'all, who else? Pretty much everybody, right? I'm going to skip some people and then I'm going to. Number 11. Did you raise your number? Did you raise your number when I asked that question? Okay. And so tell us, what makes you answer that question in the affirmative?
I can't. I have no kids myself, but I was a kid one time, a long time ago.
Ah.
And I know I keep bad.
Did you ever at any time admit to your parents, I'm lying?
I think only when I was caught.
By the way, I have to say this as well. Nobody has said it. As attorneys are taking notes and we're asking questions, we're not selecting anyone. We're deselecting. So please understand this question might be personal in nature. Don't take it out on me or my client or the state or the attorneys. It's just the nature of our jobs. We all doing a job and we want to have a jury that is fair and impartial to both sides. So again, I'm not trying to be funny, although that's another career that I have, but it happens to be very important because we're talking about children. And if you have any children, you will know. You can tell when somebody is and when somebody is not telling the truth. So question, may switch. You believe that the mother will know whether a child be lying. Now I need you to raise your numbers and keep it raised. If you believe that the mother will know that a child will be lying.
Are you
Please.
talking about their own child or someone else's child?
No, their child, the one that they birthed. However that is, I'm sorry. And they gave birth and now they know they raised this child, they fed them, however, breastfed, milk, raised them, took them to school at night with the medicines, all of that. Can the mothers tell, yeah, this kid of mine, he or she is lying at this particular time. If you believe that, raise your number.
If he or she is lying,
Yes, not the mother,
the child.
the child. Number 5, tell us a little bit about how you would know. I'm assuming that you have children, right? Huh? Okay.
How would the mother know? If
Oh, they're grown. Your children are grown.
I have granddaughters.
I remember when my grandma, every time she found out I was lying, she would hit me with a chancleta. Is that what you did? So you could tell. Is that important? Is that gonna have any impact if this is what we're gonna have in this case? Would that change anything? Again, I want to make sure that we're fair and impartial to both sides. I'm sorry, I'm asking too many
No,
questions.
you're good. I don't know, I mean, it's hard to say just the way we're talking right now, you know, if it's gonna be a hard impact. I mean, I'll be honest, right now, I'm like very sentimental. Like,
You're very sentimental?
mhm,
So are you gonna be fair and impartial in this case because of what it,
so, that's the thing,
you don't know?
yeah, I'm like. no,
You have to remember.
Soft, I don't know,
I understand. You have to remember. We have a job to do,
I know.
but a man's life is on the line. And that's no joke. That is a serious matter. And that's why I take my job so seriously. Because a man is facing 14 of you, and you all, whoever is selected, has to make a decision that will affect the rest of the life, not only of the man, but the family, the child, a lot of people. So if you have a proclivity to go one way or another, I need to know, because you don't need to be on this jury.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go one way or the other.
Okay, so do you think that's fair for either one? Okay, so you're telling the judge right now, you
Yeah.
cannot be fair and impartial. Do me a favor, stand up. Number 5. How many people feel the same way? Now, I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna take my time. I want you to stand up. I want you to stand up if you feel the same way that number 5. And one by one, I'm gonna ask you to give me the reason. Number 5, number 3. All right, number 3. Tell us, how is your proclivity?
I don't think I would be fair because I was sexually abused.
You were sexually, I was gonna get to that. You were sexually abused by who?
My stepfather, between the
Stepfather.
age 5 to 10, and then when I was 14.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. You may have a seat.
Number 4.
Yeah, I also was sexually abused.
You were sexually abused?
8 to 13.
Okay, yes,
With my granddaughter, really, so I,
granddaughter. Okay,
you know, I'd
Okay.
be like,
thank you, ma'am. Number 6. This is, number 6.
All right, so I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt. But if you all can make sure that you keep your voice up a little bit, because I know this is personal, but she still has to take no, that's no problem. But she still has to take the record down, okay?
did you hear me? Did she hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Something happened kind of similar to one of my daughters at school. And I'm looking at this from a perspective, you too.
So something happened to one of your daughters?
Yeah.
Okay, and based on that, you couldn't be fair and impartial to my client, perhaps?
I don't know the guy that, honestly, it's like. They say in the street, shoot first and then ask question.
So you'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission?
Exactly.
Well, you're not shooting at anybody.
No.
You're making a decision.
It's just like, you know, I'm thinking as a father, I got 2 daughters and. I don't know the story here, I don't know the answer over here, but I'm thinking about if I found somebody doing something to my daughter, something like that. I'll be the one sitting down there because I'm the one getting judged because I'm gonna ask questions. That's the way I'm.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of try to get this in a perspective that is gonna help everybody. So because of that, because you have an actual case pending right now, you might want to get back at him because what happened to your daughter?
I'm trying to get back at him.
I'm trying to understand you.
I'm just saying that as a father, I mean, I don't wanna be in the situation of judging somebody because as a father, me in my case, if something happens to one, something like that, something happened to one of my daughters, and I'm there, I'm not gonna ask question, I'm just gonna react, you know what I mean? So for me, it's kind of how like be on one side or the other side, trying to judge somebody. I will not judge somebody at that point when it comes to this story here.
I'm really trying to understand you, and you're Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah,
Based on that you know, all of that information, are you able to fair and impartially listen, huh?
oh,
You say no?
oh, no.
Okay. I'm sorry, if you have the same feelings, please stand up. I don't know what, please, it's gonna take some time, but number 10.
So a victim of something happened when I was.
You were a victim?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Number 14. So based on that fact, it's difficult for you to really listen to the evidence, whether it goes one way or another, because you're already thinking that.
It's too raw. I can't think clearly on top.
Is there anything that we can say that changed your mind? You don't think so? Thank you so very much for your candor. Number 15.
Similar situation. I just have close friends that have been through similar situations, and I tend to sympathize with those victims, believe victims, and I understand I don't know all the facts, but
What level of consanguinity are these friends?
Sorry?
Are they related to you?
No,
They're not related?
no.
Friends?
Yeah, but like my best friend.
Or your best friend?
Yeah,
So did you hear all the details about this?
Yeah.
And so how old was your best friend?
15.
So based on that, is it possible for you to listen to the evidence and judge my client accordingly?
I would have to hear all the facts, but I can't say one way or the other. I would need to know the facts.
And that would be perfect. That's all we need. We need somebody that can say, you know what, I can't tell you right now. But if you say, like,
I tend to think that in these cases, a child between 14 and 16 can't really make those decisions for themselves. So
a child lie.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we stand right here, can you fair and impartially listen to the evidence?
I can't say 100%.
I need you to.
I'm 100% correct.
You cannot. Okay. Thank you so much. Number 19.
Yeah, so I became a father last year. I had a little girl, and similar to routine, I can't exactly say, I've gone through a situation, but like my job as a father is to protect her. So if something was to happen, I see more of like the father side where, you can advise towards.
Okay, that's fair. Now let me say this to you. I have 4 daughters. And so I have to put that aside because I have to do a job. My question is, could you put that aside and do your job if you get selected here?
I think I could, because I'm not a professional. I can't
You
separate.
say you don't think
that.
you could?
No, sir.
And that's simply because your daughter is, I'm assuming it's a daughter,
Yes,
she's 9 months old, and so you just want to protect her.
yes.
Therefore, you want to protect from predators and as we stand right here, are you seeing my client as a predator?
Can't say it could be any person.
It could be any person. So if evidence comes your way that shows that he's not guilty, can you give a verdict in that manner?
If it is to say not guilty, then, obviously the facts will differ, but that's not, like I said, I can't make a decision. myself.
I'm asking you to make a decision right now. You haven't heard the evidence, but I'm asking you to see if you can be fair and impartial. That you know, 100%, without a doubt.
Out here,
See, she cannot tell me that. 100% she cannot. Can you do it?
out there.
You cannot. Okay? Thank you so very much. Number 20.
Daughters.
I'm sorry, the court reporter cannot hear.
Sorry. I have 2 daughters, something that's happened, and it was a family member.
So you have personal experience
Yes,
that somebody in your family, this son is your little girls.
yes.
Okay, and so because of that,
I was live and everything was back and he was guilty. So I don't trust him.
so you're not trusting my client.
No, because it's not, I'm here to do some.
You here for what, sorry?
Here to do some food, like you said, right? If I feel uncomfortable, I can't do it.
Okay, so you're asking the judge to exclude you from this jury?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, is there anything that you can say?
I need one at a time, please.
Is there anything that the judge or a prosecutor or I can say that will change your mind? No? Thank you.
Fix situation with my niece too.
Your niece?
Yes.
So because of that, you heard me say it time and time again, and you set that aside, listen to the evidence, and come up with an actual, accurate verdict. You cannot. Thank you so very much for 26. Number 41.
I tend to believe children.
I'm
Personally,
sorry, I can't hear you.
I tend to believe children personally.
You tend to believe children?
Yeah, I believe children are less developed than adults.
I'm sorry, but you have none.
No,
So how do you know?
well, just, I don't know. Children are not mature as an adult. An adult has, to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm gonna be fair or unbiased.
Tell me why. You don't want to be here? I get it. I don't want to be here either.
Can we can speak in private, right?
Absolutely. You want to approach the judge after we're?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to put you in a spot. It's just, again, I have to do a job. And so we are looking both sides, and the judge is looking for fair and impartial jurors. They can listen to the evidence and nothing more. No preconceived notions. We can have a seat. Nothing else. In fact, have a seat for 1 second. I want to say something now. I'm gonna ask you to stand up again because this is important. If this case was about the Spurs, there is no way in the world that I could be sitting in a jury. I don't care what any Spurs do. That's my team. I cannot put that aside. I can't. I love them. I see the games. I'm there with them. I cannot judge against them. I don't care. That's what I need to know. That's what we need to know. You cannot set that aside. The bias. We don't need you here. Okay? So again, if you were standing up, please stand up again. And I'm sorry if I sound redundant, but we have to know. Number 43.
I'm an elementary school.
Can you speak up so they?
I was an elementary school teacher for the last 4 years, and I worked with kids in Edgewood ISD, and I had to report several CPS cases. And I feel like it's going through experiences with a lot of kids and hearing stories of kids, I can kind of understand and feel and children not revealing all information. And I know that when kids are asked to report things and they're in front of certain people, they might forget. I don't know if I really feel comfortable making a decision based on this man's life. It's because I have worked with kids and I've learned about the way they're developed and the way adults have developed, and that's a lot different. So I don't know if I would 100% give you an fair answer.
And the
unbiased
prosecutor.
opinion.
And the pro-
And a prosecutor.
So
Unbiased opinion.
based on that, even if the evidence shows something that proves my client to be innocent, you couldn't render a fair and impartial verdict, could you? Because of your propensity of believing the children and working with the children.
I feel like so, because then later on, I've had to go back to several things after, giving my report and then the student coming back to me and giving me more information. So it's like, is everything presented that the child wants to say? Do I know 100%? All reveal that.
So once the state presents the case, they close, and we present the case. If we decide to present a case, then we close. That's it. You're not gonna get anything else. And you render a verdict based on what you have.
Have a fair decision.
You don't think you will be fair?
Unbiased.
Is that what you said?
Like an unbiased decision.
Would you render an unbiased or will it be biased? Because of what you did, it'll be biased? Okay,
I don't know all the answers.
okay, thank you, 43. 44.
So I thought about a lot before I stood up, because I was listening to your
to your statements and everybody else's. So I do have some experience, regarding something similar to this case, not to this case, but to the incident. As far as somebody close to me being a victim of sexual assault. So I just wanted to disclose that.
How close?
My girlfriend, my partner for 15 years.
So she was abused when she was younger? Yeah. And something came out of it, or did something come out of it? Was somebody prosecuted?
No.
No. And so, could you be fair and impartial right now, as we stand?
It's can't say yes or no. It's just, when
I need you to say
I-
yes or no, not maybe, because that puts you in a limbo. And you
Yeah.
cannot do limbo.
the question is, can I be impartial?
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, 64.
Comment or
And I'm sorry, depends,
Can you speak
if
up?
you could have him speak up, and if you could not stand in front of him, because then it'll
Oh,
be
yes,
easier for the court reporter to hear.
my mother and two of my aunts were molested by my grandpa. They never said anything until he passed away. And I just saw what it did to them. And their relationships they were always in bad relationships after that. My mom, she taught me to always be careful with my daughters. I raised them. I never bought my friends from work home to party or to come see football games or anything. That's just the way I was raised, and I think that an adult should know better than to enter into a relationship with a minor, no matter what.
I see that this is very emotional to you. And so based on that emotion, can you set that aside, listen to the evidence, don't allow that emotion to overrule you, and be fair and impartial to my client?
I think your job's almost impossible.
My job? Thank you for your candor, sir. Number 6, wait, what happened? 61.
So my mom, first of all, I'm religious. I'm Christian and I can't be the judge of anybody. But my mom, myself, and my younger daughter were all victims. And I don't think I can't judge this guy. Even though we all went through that, I can't judge this.
Isn't it true that scripture tells us that the spiritual person can judge all things, but he himself cannot be judged?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you said that you could not judge anybody.
I can't.
Based on what? Religion?
I guess the experiences I went through, I cannot do it.
Did you tell that to the judge earlier?
I said I was a religious person.
For a religious person?
I did want to speak to her in private, but I guess since
Okay.
everybody's speaking out, I might as well
Thank you.
admit everything.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Number 68.
My brother molested my daughter and some of my nieces and nephews. He went to prison. He's out. He called me, told him never to call me again. Because if I would have known when she was 5 years old that he molested her, I would have killed her.
And again, nothing can change that. Nothing can compensate. Nothing.
I didn't tell you, Mom, because I knew what you were gonna do. And if I stay here, I'm just gonna be in tears. And I won't be comprehending, I won't be knowing what to listen to, or who to listen to, or if he's innocent or guilty, or what's gonna be going on through my mind or his mind.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Number 71.
Both my mother and my
And just speak up.
Both my mother and my partner were victims of sexual abuse when they were minors. My mother was from her stepdad, and for my partner, it was from several people. Both of them happened between ages 4 to 6.
And so will that affect how you see the evidence in this case?
Yes,
Why is that?
I feel very biased about this topic.
But the judge is going to instruct you not to be. Can you set that aside?
I don't think so.
Thank you, sir. Number 70.
Yes, has daughter, granddaughter, has it pretty much affected my family for a long time. It's just something I deal with still to this day and play a big role in raising my granddaughter because of what happened many years ago. But it's something that, like you say, you have to question fair, impartial, fair, I would always try my best, but impartial is impossible.
You couldn't be impartial?
Impartial is a difficult word. From what I've had to deal with for my family.
So right now, as we sit here, my client has to convince you that he's innocent.
Well, yeah, I'd have to be pretty convincing for this scenario.
Well, the law says that he's innocent until proven guilty.
I understand.
Is that the strong of the feeling that you have?
From what I've had to do to help my family out through my life, yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, thank you. 69.
I have a younger sister who was 13 years old when she was raped. Child came out of it. To this day, the child, family's wrecked. We've been through so much. We fear parole. It's messed up my entire family because she was adopted out to family of, to try to keep her away from everything. It's been a wreck. It's been, to this day, 25 years later, 24 years later, it's hard. And now he's been approved for parole for the second or third time. And my younger sister still, has to fight it years later, and emotions are up the wall at the moment, of course. But
Do you somehow,
courtroom dealing with a case like this, no.
do you somehow feel that you need to vindicate your sister by convicting somebody else? So you can be fair?
It's hard. It would be hard for somebody like me. I just lost my son. My son was murdered 3 years ago. And I'm dealing with the case, 2 cases actually, because there were 2 people involved.
Are you taking any medications?
They've asked me that over and over, and I refuse to medicate.
All right, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay, thank you. Number 73.
I've been probation officer for 11 and a half years in California. I don't see what happened to kids.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And finally, 75.
So based on my professional experience with victims, would have a very hard time being unbiased in this case. Granted, I don't know the details of it, but I am a board certified ER doctor and treated multiple patients with emergency room both after the initial alleged harassment or assault, even years down the line where it's had lasting effects on somebody, psychiatric or psychological issues from it. And at that point, I've done self-harm. And so it's just, granted, I never knew the other party. I was just treating my patients that were in front of me, but it's very hard for me to say that I would be unbiased in this case for somebody just because of what I've experienced with the young patients that I have treated.
Okay.
All right, counsel, your time has expired.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you all to step outside. To everyone that's in the box, if you'll make sure you take your personal items with you, please leave the white cards behind. And I'm going to have you step outside, and then we're going to call you back in momentarily, and you'll know who's going to be on the jury panel. Everyone, please rise. Oh, we may proceed outside. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming down for service. We cannot have jury trials without jurors. So you all should have received a white sheet of paper. That's to signify that you are here. If anyone doesn't have a white sheet of paper, just let the deputy know and he'll make sure that you receive one. If you parked in the garage, but you didn't get your parking validated, you would have to get it validated downstairs, but I believe they are closed now. So if for some reason you're leaving the parking garage, you can just let them know that you were in the 187th and we'll make sure that's taken care of. With regards to the white sheets you received, you can donate the money that you're going to be given for being here today. Many charities are already listed, but if you want to donate it to a different charity, they can make that happen. Otherwise, what will end up happening is months from now, you will receive a check in the mail. You will think, oh my gosh, is this real? And then you remember the great time you had here, and you will know that it is real. I always tell people downtown is truly a beautiful place when you don't have time constraints, you're not worried about parking, you're just enjoying the atmosphere. The river walk is truly beautiful. I always wonder when people live in a specific place, do they see things on a daily basis and just say, oh, that's the river walk? Whenever I have relatives who come from out of town, they think the river walk is so beautiful. And I'm originally from Louisiana. You know, we have a lot of water, but they still think the river walk is beautiful. So when you get that check in the mail, you can come downtown. 187th is always open. You can come here and visit us, and you can enjoy time on the Riverwalk. Watching the ducks is always cool and refreshing down there. And you will be able to buy lunch probably with that. Not at the place that's very touristy, as we know, but we live here, so we know where to go to get a good meal. So again, thank you all so much for coming down, and you are appreciated. With that being said, you all are excused. Oh, excuse me, not. Oh, we're like, no, not you. Isn't the battery pack the best thing? Sure. You're welcome. Mhm. My mom ended up getting me a Halo. And so whenever people need charging, they just say, Stephanie, do you have your Halo? And they can plug it in. Yes. They've even changed the battery chargers for the cars now. If my battery needs charging in the car, my mom had me a little Halo that this size, and you can just charge it. Yeah. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you go after I give you a few instructions. And the fact that I'm giving you these instructions, you'll be able to not get caught up in rush hour traffic. So that's the good thing about being here after 5. All right, so in this courtroom, the temperature will fluctuate. Sometimes it's cold, and then people want to complain that it's too cold, and we tell everybody, please don't complain about it being too cold, because then we end up with 90 degrees and it's super hot. So to be on the safe side, if you want to bring a jacket or something, you can bring a jacket. I always say it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. You are allowed to bring drinks in. Just make sure it's something that has a cover on it. I'm always bringing my water so I can stay hydrated. So just make sure there's a cover on it. The chairs, hopefully I think they may be slightly more comfortable than what they were in the past, because in the past there was 0 padding, but we still do have pillows in the back for your backs. We don't have pillows enough for all of you, but if you see a pillow in there, or if you want to bring a pillow from home to sit with your back on, you're more than welcome to do that. The start time for this trial, we're going to start tomorrow at 9:30. I have other cases that are on the docket that should go fairly quickly. So we're going to start at 9:30. Now, the parking garage. The parking garage is where everybody parks. All of the jurors who are called down each day, which I think maybe about 500 or so, they all park at the parking garage. Many of the employees who work here park at the parking garage. So even though I'm setting this at 9:30, if you want to have a good chance of having a parking space in the parking garage, it's probably best if you arrive at 8:30. Now, you will not report tomorrow to this jury room. Deputy Laura is going to show you where you report to. You're going to report to the jury room. In the jury room, there is it a microwave or is it a toaster? There's a microwave, there's a toaster oven, there's a refrigerator. So if you want to bring breakfast, if you want to bring your lunch, you're more than welcome to use the refrigerator, the microwave, and the toaster oven. I don't expect much publicity in this case, but if you were to see anything, you are to completely ignore it. You are not allowed to do any investigation on this case. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? Okay. All right, any questions? All right, so the 9:30 start time, we cannot start unless everybody is here. Deputy Laura will make sure that she takes everybody's number. So if there is some issue that happens with you, just be sure to give us a call. Okay. All right, I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9:30. Everyone, please rise.